Think you're doing everything right but still struggling to lose weight? It could be your cortisol. Here are the signs and how to begin naturally fixing it. Two of the signs that I found most surprising that cortisol might be too high is that your cravings are out of control and that you're holding stubborn belly fat, especially lower belly fat. That's right, cravings and excess belly fat in your 40s and 50s could be a major clue that your stress hormones are out of balance. But that's just two of the signs I'm going to share with you today, along with taking you through steps on how you can begin fixing it naturally. So, what exactly is cortisol? Most of us know it as the stress hormone that's released by our adrenal glands because it's in response to those stressful situations. Its main job is to help your body handle those situations by increasing your blood sugar, providing you a quick energy hit and preparing your body for a fight or flight response. In short terms, cortisol is incredibly helpful. But cortisol is so much more than that. It actually plays a huge role throughout your whole body. For starters, cortisol helps regulate your metabolism. That's going to influence your body processes and how you store fats, proteins, and carbs. But it also is involved in reducing inflammation to keep your immune system in check, and it even can help control blood sugars. But when everything is balanced, cortisol is not just good for you. You literally can't live without it. Here's where things get tricky though. When stress becomes constant, cortisol levels stay elevated, and that's when things start to go off track. High cortisol puts your body in a constant state of fight or flight and leaves you feeling frazzled. It disrupts your body's natural processes. High cortisol can interfere with your sleep-wake cycles, leaving you feeling tired throughout the day but wired at night. It also messes with your energy levels, making it harder to stay motivated for workouts or even just to get through your day. If we can get a better grasp on the role of cortisol in our bodies, it can help us figure out why, despite our best efforts, you might be struggling with weight gain, particularly around your lower belly. How does cortisol affect our weight loss? Well, when cortisol levels remain elevated for long periods of time, our body enters what can be thought of as that survival mode. This is a built-in protective response designed to help us cope with stress. But in today's world, where stress is often chronic and ongoing, this system can backfire. Biochemically, when cortisol is high too long, your body starts to store energy in the form of fat, particularly at your stomach. This is because the body perceives prolonged stress as a potential threat, signaling that it needs to conserve resources. Fat stored around your vital organs, like your liver, pancreas, and intestines, it likes to put it there because it's a really efficient way that your body can tap into that excess energy in a pinch. Unfortunately, it also leads to stubborn belly fat, which is not only difficult to lose, but that kind of fat is most closely linked to health issues like heart disease and diabetes. On top of that, cortisol interferes with insulin, the hormone that helps regulate your blood sugar. When insulin is out of balance, your blood sugar levels fluctuate, causing those spikes and crashes. Those dips in blood sugar trigger cravings for quick fixes, foods that have a lot of sugar and fat because your body is trying to replenish energy as fast as possible. This leads to overeating and further weight gain. High cortisol levels break down muscle tissue too to use as energy, which can also slow down your metabolism. Since muscle is a key driver in metabolic efficiency, losing muscle mass makes it even harder to burn calories. If we can identify these signs of high cortisol and learn natural techniques to manage it, your body will be able to perform at a balanced state where it can burn fat effectively, maintain your muscle mass, and you're finally going to start seeing results. So, how do you know if cortisol levels are too high? Here are 5 signs of high cortisol that might not be obvious. The first sign that high cortisol is if you're gaining weight, especially for women, in your abdomen, face, and chest. This can be so frustrating because even if you're eating well and exercising, you might still see weight accumulation in those spots. Well, why? Because when cortisol levels are constantly high, the body shifts into fat storage mode, particularly in your midsection. It's a protective mechanism that your body has to prepare for a potential threat or stress, which in our modern world often translates into belly fat. It's not just a number on the scale, it's where your fat is being stored that's really the key indicator of elevated cortisol. If you notice your midsection keeps expanding no matter what you do, it could be cortisol to blame. Number 2, anxiety and depression. Another significant sign of high cortisol is anxiety and depression. Now, everyone experiences stress, but if you find you're constantly on edge, anxious, or even have those periods of sadness and depression, it could be a result of cortisol overload. Cortisol is meant to help you manage stress in the short term, but when it's too high for too long, it begins to have the opposite effect, creating a cycle of emotional imbalance. High cortisol can actually cause your brain to release fewer feel-good hormones like that dopamine and serotonin. That's going to make it even harder for you to manage stress and stay positive. If you're feeling like you're under a dark cloud sometimes, cortisol could be a major factor. Number 3, high blood pressure. High blood pressure is another direct result of chronic stress and elevated cortisol. When your cortisol levels are constantly high, your body is in a heightened state of alert. This triggers that fight or flight response that I was mentioning before, and it increases your heart rate, your blood vessels constrict, and your blood pressure rises. Over time, this is going to lead to a sustained high blood pressure, putting an extra strain on your heart and increasing your risk for heart disease. If you're noticing that your blood pressure has been creeping up, especially when you're feeling stressed, it's important to notice that cortisol might have a role in that. Even if you're not someone who typically struggles with high blood pressure, this is one of those silent signs that cortisol could be affecting your health. Number 4, sleep disturbances. And then we have sleep. Cortisol is deeply connected with your sleep-wake cycles, or those circadian rhythms. Normally, your cortisol levels should be highest in the morning to help you wake up and get going throughout the day, and then gradually decline throughout the day, reaching their lowest point at night so you can rest. But when your cortisol is out of whack, its rhythm gets disrupted. You might find it hard to fall asleep because your body is still in stress mode, or even worse, you might wake up in the middle of the night and find it almost impossible to get back to sleep. I know I've had plenty of times where I've woken up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and my mind just won't shut off. That is a classic sign of elevated cortisol. And as we know, poor sleep creates a vicious cycle, right? When you're not well rested, your body produces even more cortisol. It's even harder to get sleep the next night. It's a never-ending loop, and your weight loss efforts get stalled because your body isn't recovering. Number 5, irregular menstrual cycles. For women like me in our 40s, and now I'm 50, irregular menstrual cycles are another sign that cortisol could be out of balance. This is a tricky one because with perimenopause, already our hormones are shifting and our cycles are less predictable. But high cortisol makes it even worse. When your body's under stress, it diverts energy away from your reproductive functions because it's prioritizing survival. This means your cycles could become shorter, longer, irregular than they were before. It's easy to write that off as just part of aging, but cortisol might actually be making it worse. If you've noticed that your periods are all over the place, you might be experiencing cortisol shifts. So that's something to check as well. So let me give you some other signs as well. Things like skin problems, digestive issues, and cravings. In addition to the basic core signs that I've given you already, there's some other subtle indicators that cortisol might be high. You might notice you're getting more frequent breakouts or have adult acne. Elevated cortisol can increase oil production in your skin, giving you clogged pores and inflammation. You might also experience some digestive issues such as bloating or stomach discomfort or even IBS-like symptoms, because cortisol can disrupt your digestion when your body is in a constant state of stress. And let's not forget about those cravings of sugary, salty, fatty foods. Cortisol makes your brain think that you need a quick hit of energy, and it triggers those cravings. And those, of course, derail your weight loss efforts. Now that we've covered some of the key signs that your cortisol levels may be too high, let's talk about one of the most frustrating outcomes for women, belly fat. If you are struggling to shed those extra inches around your midsection, cortisol could be playing a bigger role than you realize. Elevated cortisol doesn't just signal your body to store fat, it specifically encourages fat accumulation in your ab area. It happens because cortisol drives your body to store fat close to those vital organs where it can be quickly accessed in case of ongoing stress. Unfortunately, this visceral fat is more metabolically active, making it even harder to lose and more dangerous for your health. The connection between cortisol and belly fat goes beyond just stress. High cortisol levels can interfere with other hormones too, like insulin, that's going to give an imbalance in your body processes and how you store energy. This disruption can lead to more fat being stored in your belly, and even if you're eating well. So if you're doing everything right and you're still seeing little progress, it's not necessarily a reflection on your efforts. It's your body's way of responding to chronic stress. The good news is there are natural ways to lower your cortisol levels. And I'm going to take you through some of the things that you can begin doing now naturally to make that happen. The first step is a healthy diet. A healthy diet is a really powerful way to lower your cholesterol levels or your cortisol levels. Focus on eating whole foods, especially vegetables, complex carbs, and like sweet potatoes, whole grains, and healthy fats with like omega-3 fatty acids. So EFA Gold, salmon, nuts, flax seeds, those are some really good ways to get in healthy fats. Veggies are particularly helpful, and you can enjoy them in unlimited amounts. So load up on those leafy greens, broccoli, and other nutrient-packed options. In fact, in my online fitness and nutrition coaching program, I encourage women to eat as many vegetables as possible, and they don't even have to log those. Veggies are crazy high in fiber and nutrients while being super low in calories. Just make sure you're not adding extra oil and butter and increasing calories those way. That can sneak up on you. The goal is to fuel your body with foods that help regulate your blood sugar and provide steady energy. Stay active. Regular physical activity is one of the best ways you can naturally manage cortisol. Whether it's my favorite, strength training, or other movements like walking, hiking, yoga, being active helps your body release endorphins, which are your body's natural stress relievers. Exercise also helps regulate your insulin and keeps your metabolism in check. That's going to counter some of those negative effects of high cortisol. You don't always need to do extreme workouts either. Sometimes something as simple as a brisk 30-minute walk can help. The key is consistency. Aim to move your body every day, and I recommend hitting the weights at least 3 times a week. Getting enough sleep. Quality sleep will lower cortisol and help improve your health. When you don't get enough sleep, your body produces more cortisol, keeping you in a constant state of stress. One way to make sure that you're getting a good night's rest is to establish a bedtime routine that's going to help you wind down. Avoid using electronics like your phone or TV for that last hour before bed. That blue light can interfere with your natural sleep-wake cycles. Instead, focus on calm activities like reading or light stretching. And aim to go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. Practice deep breathing. Breathing exercises through things like yoga and meditation are really effective to lower your stress and cortisol too. Deep breathing sends a signal to your brain that it's time to relax, lowering your heart rate and your blood pressure through the process. Even just 5 to 10 minutes a day of mindful breathing can make a big difference in how your body manages stress. Practices like yoga and meditation can amplify those benefits by combining physical relaxation with mental focus. Start small, that's okay. Perhaps just a few minutes each morning or before you go to bed, and gradually work up over time. Watch alcohol and smoking. Alcohol and smoking have a direct impact on your cortisol levels. While you might feel like alcohol relaxes you in the moment, it actually causes a spike in your cortisol later on if you consume too much. Smoking too might feel like it reduces your stress in the short term, but it's been shown to actually raise your cortisol over time. If you do drink alcohol, try to keep it to a minimum and aim for moderation. 1 glass of wine, 1 drink occasionally rather than nightly drinks. Avoid smoking altogether if you can, or at least cut back. Both of these habits are not going to be supporting your overall fitness goals. Spend time outdoors. Spending time outdoors in the sunlight and the fresh air can naturally lower your cortisol levels and reduce stress. Exposure to sunlight boosts your body's production of serotonin, that hormone that helps stabilize your mood and improve feelings of well-being. Even just 15 to 20 minutes a day out walking in nature, whether it's in a park, on a trail, or even in your backyard, that's going to have a profound impact on your mental health and your stress levels. The combination of sunlight, movement, and the peaceful environment works wonders to help reduce cortisol and helps your body return to a more stable state.